Hello and welcome. My name is Kyle Nielsen, and this is How You Level Up, a podcast where I ask questions to help you become your best self. Today we ask, in what ways may we apply questioning? What different types of questions can we ask to achieve different outcomes? Questions are powerful tools. They help us in many ways. Most simply, questions help us to think about a thing or idea from a new angle. A great example of this is to picture an apple in your hand. Now think about the apple. Good. Now, what did you think about when pondering on this apple? Did you think about the shape of the apple? What about the nutrients inside? Or the structure of the apple? How long does it take an apple to grow? What shape of plants do apples grow from? How big does that plant become when it's fully mature? How many apples grow on this plant? What color are those apples? What makes apples different colors? What can an apple make? What can an apple be added to? What parts of an apple can be eaten? What does an apple feel like? How heavy is an apple? What is the purpose of an apple? In what ways can we measure one apple against another? What is an apple most useful for? What is a creative way you can use an apple? What is the best way to transport an apple? In what ways can an apple be prepared? Who or what most enjoys apples? What parts or aspects of an apple are you not thinking about yet? We could continue to come up with more questions to ask about an apple. The questions you employ will achieve different outcomes. Each question makes you think of a different thing. You will begin to think about a person, place, or thing differently depending on what questions you ask. So what types of questions are there? The questions you employ come in several forms. We will name a few here. There are challenger questions, which come in the form of why questions. Asking challenger questions inherently create dissonance between the questioner and the questioned. Why would I want to perform that action? Why did I do this or that? Why are they saying those words? Another form is questioning questions. These questions are a bit meta and seek to understand, to reflect, and sound like, why did I do that? What assumptions have I made here? Or, is there a different way I can ask this? Then there are sequence questions. These questions help a speaker to fill in information that they may not realize was missed, asking, what happened before this? Or, what happens after that process? Will uncover a sequence previously hidden. Then there are source questions. These questions help to identify origins, asking, when did this begin? Or, where did this idea come from? There are intention questions. These seek to understand objectives or designs. Like, what would X like to have happen? What needs to happen for X? How can X happen? Then there are clarity questions, sometimes referred to as developing questions. These encourage people to be more specific and will stop time and focus attention. Like, could you elaborate further? Can you give an example? Could you illustrate what you mean? There are also accuracy questions. These seek to find correctness and trueness, like, how could we check on that? Or, how could we find out if that's true? How could we verify or test that? Similar to accuracy questions are precision questions. These seek exactness, like, could you be more specific? Could you give more details? Even could you be more exact? There are relevance questions, and these want to understand relationships between things, like, how does this relate to the problem at hand? How does that bear on the question? How does that help us with this issue? There are also depth questions, which attempt to uncover details and sound like, what factors make this a difficult problem? What are some of the complexities to this? What are some of the difficulties we need to deal with? We can also ask breadth questions. These want to find parallels and new perspectives. And they sound like, do we need to look at this from another perspective? Do we need to consider another point of view? Can we look at this in any other way? There are logic questions that want to verify validity. They sound like, does all of this make sense together? Does the first fit with the last? Does what you say follow from evidence? Similar to logic questions are practicality questions, which want to identify a through line and sound like, is this idea actionable? Can we move away from the concept into reality with this plan? Can I count on reaching success with this in a real circumstance? Then there are significance questions. These want to test the substance and the consequence of a matter. Like, is this the most important problem to consider? Is there a central idea to focus on? Which of these facts are most important? There are also fairness questions which seek to enlighten equity and honor. Like, are my selfish desires keeping me from being fair to others? Am I sympathetically entering the viewpoints of others? Am I putting views I oppose in their strongest form? We can also ask credibility questions, which seek to uncover believability and influence. Like, is what I said from a credible source? Is what was said to be trusted? What does it take for what I said to be believable or unbelievable? Similar to these credibility questions are reliability questions. They ask for credibility of trust. Like, could I count on that person or idea in a time of need? Could that idea or concept remain consistent in any situation? There are sufficiency questions. These want to impart adequacy and sound like, is this action enough to accomplish the goal? What would make an idea or action enough? And there are innovative questions. This is when you are confronting, formulating, and framing the idea or concept at hand. This type of questioning seeks to gain an understanding of context. They sound like, what types of things are we not thinking about? What questions are we not asking? What is a ridiculous idea that wouldn't work, and how can we make it work? Again, questions come in many forms. So, which questions might you want to use? How do you want to use these questions to achieve your goals? And in what ways will you use questions next? Thank you for listening to another episode. If you're enjoying the show, open up the app you're listening to this on and hit the like or subscribe button and give a 5-star rating. At least twice a week, you'll find a new episode asking you a new question, so you can strengthen your emotional independence, improve your communication skills, and upgrade your personal philosophy. So if there's a question you'd like me to dive into next, send it to any of these social media accounts connected in the show notes here. This is all about how you level up.